Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of abrupt endings, exploring songs that abruptly end. It's a theme that just kind of explains itself. Yeah. We're going to check out some The Dillinger Escape Plan, which I just now am realizing there's a the at the beginning. I've called them Dillinger Escape Plan for the longest now. We're going to check out a song called Understanding Decay that comes off of the One of Us is the Killer album from 2013. Let's dive in and see what Depp is bringing to the table today. This is going to be one of those songs from them, huh? What is that sound on the outside? You know, it's interesting, as unsettling as this is, it's just like what the song is at this point. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's their more chaotic side. I definitely enjoy their more melodic side of things. This reminds me a bit more of Burnt 43%. It's intense from start to finish. I mean, all right, so y'all mostly come here for analysis. I mean, it's in the title of the video, composer reaction and analysis. I can't analyze this on a first listen. It's chaos, and that's I can make an analysis out of that, sure, but it's reductive. There's so much more depth to this that I won't even get on a second time through. The song is, to me, loud and noisy and abrasive, not just in its volume and size, but also instrumental use. There's some really wild timbres in here. Could be digital, could be acoustic. I have no idea. There's this one that sounded like a really slow moving ratchet, but also with like a ton of compression on it. So it's probably a mix of acoustic and digital, if it's not entirely digital. It's little sounds like that keep me on my toes because they just throw randomness in there. But even just listening to the guitars, they're large, they're harsh, they're gnarly. The vocals are monstrously huge. There's so much power to these harshes. Um, the bass is massive. The drums are big all the time, constantly being hit so often. The drummer's just going wild back there. It's the patterns are wild. The accent patterns are wild. The phrases are tough to keep up with, and it's incredibly intricate. The guitar work harmonically. Sometimes there's like some rule of cool metalcore going on in here, a little bit of punk influence, a little bit of metal influence, but then there's also noisy dissonant work going on at times too, where they'll kind of just shift away from consonant harmony into dissonant harmony and look for notes that just clash when they're played together, and just say, all right, we're going to focus on that for a little bit, aren't we? Just really lean into that. We had the eerie off-settling part later on in the track. I guess that was the second to last section. Kind of brought the energy down, but the atmosphere was still on edge. Even without the rapid fire drum work or the tense guitar work or the overall harshness of timbre from every instrument, it still left me uneasy. It's not just a production thing that Dillinger Escape Plan pulls together here. It's the compositional side too. They understand how every facet of music, whether it is the sound of the instruments or what the instruments are playing harmonically or melodically or rhythmically, how all of it ties together and creates the atmospheres that they like to sit within. And they know how to use it all to absolutely lean into a specific idea from start to finish while jumping around between so many different ideas. They create this consistency of intent, even though I would say there's a lot of different ideas, styles in here. It jumps around. It's not really a cohesive track from moment to moment, but the intention is consistent, and that creates the cohesion behind the song. I find that really impressive, to just understand the art that you're making so thoroughly that you can create cohesion out of totally disparate ideas. That's quite impressive. I think the only other thing I really want to bring up here then is rhythm. Now, I tried to count some of this stuff out. Y'all have told me before that the Dillinger group, they play by their muscle memory, by their gut instinct, that they're not writing this out with time signatures in mind, if they're even writing it out at all. I don't know. Maybe it's just they play the riff and then memorize it. There's no documentation at all other than what gets recorded. Sonic documentation more so than notation. But I listened to some of this stuff and there's just no order to it at all. it's tough to find time signatures. They're constantly shifting. One moment I'll feel like we're in 7, and then I'll be like, nope, 7 doesn't fit anymore. What's going on here? And then it'll be like not 8, but not 7 either. But you split the difference. So we would just double the numbers from 7 to 8 to 14 to 16. So maybe we're dealing with 15. No, not that either. I'm listening to this. I'm like, I have no idea what time signature they're even in, much less in some places where one even is. There are certain riffs, sure, that start on a very abrupt note, and you can specifically hear this in those oddly interrupted guitar riffs that we heard at the beginning of the song, where it feels like the song or the riff has started moving rather quickly, and then out of nowhere it lurches down to a low note, and there's a really hard attack on it to really put emphasis here. That is definitely a beat 1 to me, but how many beats are there between that note and returning back to it? And that's not always clear to me, because I also feel like there's subtle tempo shifts going on in here. Now, most likely it's a type of metric modulation where it sounds like we've shifted tempo, but actually haven't. A very simple metric modulation is simply playing notes half as often. If you are going da 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 da, and then you shift from da 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 da, it feels like we've slowed down. The tempo doesn't necessarily need to have changed, but it feels like that. That is a very simple metric modulation. You can alter the metric side of things, the tempo side of things, all over the place by introducing all sorts of not directly split down the middle beats. Instead of shifting to eighth beats, you can have triplets. Put 3 notes or 3 hits into a single beat, or tuple it up into 5s, or split that out even. 5 hits over 6 beats. That'll really feel strange. And you can do this however you want, whatever kind of mathy direction your brain will take you. You can make any time signature feel like any other time signature. And the way that metric modulation typically works is that they'll use this in spurts, maybe to wrap up a phrase in the final couple of beats of a 4-bar phrase or something like that, so that it feels like we're changing time momentarily and then shifting back, or shifting to a different time signature. You can use, if you're playing a lot of quarter notes, you can use triplet quarter notes to feel like you're slowing down and then literally drop to a lower tempo without having to do a full-on retardando through that section. I think that's what's happening in here, but in like micro doses where it feels like we speed up or slow down for just a beat or two and then return back. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we return back though, but it also feels like we lost time or gained time in those moments too. Time is just really wonky in this track, and so weird time signatures, difficult to follow phrases, and possibility of metric modulation or granular tempo changes make this really difficult to follow until you've just memorized it. And you can just groove with it because you can anticipate everything that's happening. You know exactly what's going to come next, which is, from what I understand, how they write and perform music. They just do it over and over and over until it's just natural to play it in this highly obtuse way. And so, like I said, I tried to count some of these sections out. I've really got nothing, and that just adds to the chaos, unease, and uncertainty of the track. It is noisy, it is off-putting in a lot of ways for your average listener. Even I, despite being exposed to more aggressive musics and even enjoy more aggressive musics, find this to be right there at the cusp of what I think I could enjoy. And they push it as far as they can go. They take something uneasy and find every single way they can write music that leans into that. Harmonically, melodically, sonically, temporally. I guess all of what I just talked about kind of lines up in the time element of it. It is just a song that feels like it doesn't want to exist, much less wants me to listen to it. Like I said, very surface level though. There probably is a lot of depth to this if you could plot out the time signatures and the tempos and all of that. There's probably a lot to learn from this as far as complex mathy writing goes and how to create something that is both wildly unhinged rhythmically but also palatable enough to grow a following. This isn't abstract quite yet. It definitely pushes into that realm as far as it can, but it is still a palatable sound. We have not reached the world of abstract music yet. We're not into the world of whatever the free jazz equivalent of post-hardcore or metalcore is. Do we have free metalcore? That just does not sound like a formula I would like, but I'd give it a shot. But we haven't gotten there yet. We push right up to the boundaries of it, but stay on the side of the more palatable. And they really toe that line well. And there's probably a lot to learn there if you can decipher this, but you really need some sort of Rosetta Stone for time signatures and tempos and stuff to understand what's going on here. Lyrics. Yeah, what's going on with these lyrics? I feel like there's a cool metaphor here for, I almost feel like a sort of second birth of rediscovering of the self. But I don't know, man. There's a lot of repetition in here. The opening verse, the only verse, says, drag the knife across the skin, tempted to succumb, carving fervor into flesh, holy we've become, turning lips to everyone, giving heart to none, running backwards, erasing time, seek the fire but never die. This makes no sense to me at all. I mean, turning lips to everyone, I think, giving heart to none is basically giving no thought or empathy to anyone, but just lip service. Telling people that you're there for them, that you care about them, but not actually doing any of that. What that has to do with running backwards, seeking fire, but never dying. Going backwards in time would certainly be a chasing youth in a sense, immortality possibly. But then there's also the visual imagery of a sacrifice of some sort, a knife carving into flesh to talk about becoming holy through this. I don't know, it's very ritualistic. The chorus says, the cradle wipes blood red fresh, and that's just, those are not the right order for those words. And through you the host has chosen a name. Call the name out. I don't know. The bridge says, I'll never be like you, late to my own funeral. And then the interlude says, push decay inside of me, for then I can open all the passages to the other worlds. I don't know, man. Understanding decay, understanding the end of things, push decay into me so I can open passageways to the other worlds. I don't know, dude. I had that hypothesis about a second birthing of, because when you're first born, you don't have a choice for any of it. You don't choose to be born, you don't choose your name, you don't choose your identity. But later in life, you get to, if you want, choose all of that. Who are you? Who will you be? How will you dress? Are you going to change your name? This can open passageways to, figuratively, other worlds, other versions of you, parallel universes of your existence, in a sense. If you really want to look at it from that figurative perspective, being late for a funeral could be a funeral of your old self, and you won't be late to that one. And you'll never be like someone else, maybe the original host, the original person who pushed their identity of you onto you. In this case, probably your parents. But I mean, could also be some sort of guardian or caretaker too. But the idea of getting here by pushing decay into yourself, I don't know. The cradle filled with blood, calling out the name of the host. And then the ritual at the beginning. Yeah, dude, I don't know. It's a chaotic series of very vague ideas, metaphorically deep, I'm going to say, if you have that key phrase. This song is about blank. Maybe everything really comes together, but I'm missing that piece of the puzzle in order to see the larger picture. And so I'm just as lost on the lyrics as I am on the music. This is where y'all come in. These are my thoughts on the Dillinger escape plans. Plans? Yeah, plan. It's only one plan, so the plural would be plans. Understanding decay. What are your thoughts on this? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation. If you do, please put that down. I want to read everyone's interpretation of this. I'm so lost on this song. Especially if you're a veteran. You've heard this song hundreds of times. What's your take on it? Having more familiarity with the song. I don't care if it's like a super shallow read of it. I'm curious because I have basically zero ground for this. I'd like to take at least one step into this, into understanding this song, even if it's not even authorial intent. It's just a hypothesis. I need some perspective on it. Put all that in the comment section though. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.